Let's see which one of us dies first. Ah!
Good morning, afternoon, or evening. My name's Bunz, and in this exciting episode of Learning Deadlock A to Z, I will be learning absolutely nothing because I'm playing my main, who I completely despise. If you don't know how we do things here, my goal is to learn how to play every hero in Deadlock. To do that, in each video I break down a hero's moveset, play 10 games with that hero, and analyze each game that I play to really learn their kit in depth. And finally, break down everything I learned from the experience so that I can learn a lesson from this whole ordeal. Before we get into the kit breakdown for Bebop, I really just need to vent about this character for a second. Bebop, especially after making this video, is my most played character in this game by a long shot. He is also absolutely my least favorite character in the game. His kit just feels awful to use, something I will bitch and moan about extensively in this video. One of my biggest inspirations for creating this series was to have enough familiarity with each hero to not solely rely on one. Since the release of my last video, pretty much every non-Bebop game I have played has been with Abrams, and I greatly enjoy playing as him. So far, this series has made me proficient with one hero I didn't know how to play before. Today, however, I'll be playing a hero I know all too well how to play, and one I'm not too big of a fan of. This video is my goodbye to Bebop, and it's not going to be a happy ending. He's gotten me far in this game despite his flaws, but I think I'm ready to move on to a post-main stage of my life where I can just have basic proficiency with every hero in Deadlock. I'm also ready to dump this hero for ones who are much more fun to play, so let's get into it. With my piece being said, we'll move on to the kit breakdown for Bebop, and we'll learn together why this hero just doesn't work. Bebop's primary attack is a high rate of fire, low damage, perfectly accurate hit scan laser beam with a very minor delay on startup. By aiming down sights, you can wind up the gun without having to fire it. If it's already wound up from firing, you can keep it that way by using aim down sights. This makes Bebop's primary attack one of the best in the game at securing souls, really only beaten out by characters with shotguns. Just make sure not to get tunnel vision due to the amount you aim down sights, as it can be pretty easy for enemies to gank you while you're focused on securing those souls. Bebop's first ability is his exploding uppercut. Bebop does a punch in a small area in front of him, knocking allies and enemies away in the direction he's aiming. This ability is a punch, so it triggers items like melee lifesteal and spirit snatch, though it doesn't trigger melee charge due to the punch not being a charged melee attack. When an enemy is hit by the punch, they are locked into their trajectory and are unable to escape by dashing, and when they land, they take a small amount of area damage plus a minor fire rate slow. Allies take no damage from this attack, but they still do the AoE damage to enemies upon landing. Bebop's second ability is Sticky Bomb, which allows Bebop to put a short fuse bomb on himself, an ally, or an enemy. For every enemy damaged by the bomb, Bebop gains a stack. Sticky Bomb does more damage per stack, but Bebop also loses a few stacks on death. Bebop's third ability is the main reason to play the character, his hook. Bebop fires a low-range skill shot that can hit allies and enemies. On hit, the player or trooper is reeled in. Bebop can cancel the hook by reactivating the ability after he hits it. Bebop's final ability is his ultimate, Hyper Beam. After a short charge up, which can be cancelled by reactivating the ability to refund the cooldown, Bebop unleashes a big purple laser. If the laser hits a surface, the laser splashes, dealing its damage in a small AoE. While channeling the laser, you move incredibly slowly, float in the air if you activated it in the air, and have a massively decreased turning radius. The Hyper Beam does a fair amount of spirit damage while massively slowing enemies that are hit. And now you know what Bebop's kit does. On paper, Bebop's kit seems incredibly effective. You can reel enemies in with your hook, punch them to force them in a fixed, easy-to-track aerial path, stick a bomb on them for damage, and use your laser for long-range engagements. In practice, Bebop's kit is difficult to work with. Hook has an incredibly limited range. Sticky Bomb and Punch do low damage unless you build Pure Spirit, which is something you won't do because of how good his gun is, and his ult does mediocre damage while encouraging Bebop to play at a range where his kit does nothing. The shining stars of his kit are his primary attack and his exploding uppercuts forced movement that you can't dash out of, combining the two giving you very easy ways to apply items like toxic bullets, crippling headshots, and slowing bullets. His hook, as well, is something that you should be building around with as much cooldown as possible. With my opinions on Bebop being said, let's move on to the games. I played 10 games with this tragedy of a hero to see what I would learn. I didn't have fun with it, but I actually learned more than I thought I would. Let's get on to the games, for science. The first 2 of my games that I played, I did before the new shaders were added, so that's why they look a little different. I played the first game with Dolphino and Spoop. I laned against a Wraith in the early game and absolutely stomped her. I had double her farm entering the mid-game, where I took as many fights as I could to keep the pressure up. Despite taking fights and objectives, going into the late game I was somehow underfed when compared to my team. It's absolutely insane how difficult it is to keep up on farm with Bebop, as he really struggles to secure last hits on enemies during fights, and he usually gets the lowest soul split from a player kill. This game I primarily built tanky and got active items, which at that point was a regular Bebop build for me, but I was really neglecting buying gun items as they are incredibly effective with his great basic attack. In the late game team fights, I'll be honest, I hit some insane hooks.
Somebody grab the buff on the right bridge.
Got her! Oh my fucking god! Best Bebop in the business, baby! We won, but I really don't feel like I contributed much to the team. It sucks just feeling like you're not able to do anything. I generally don't get frustrated at video games anymore. I feel like the sheer rage I felt back when I played Paladins, trying to wrestle with one of the worst FPS games ever made, it's really dampened my ability to get mad at games. However, a pretty common theme you'll see in my Bebop games is me getting frustrated as shit at this game. Bebop is a terrible character, and not in a fun way like Third Strike Hugo. In the early game, Spoop and I got stomped in lane. Getting stomped is actually the common theme of this game. I died 16 times in this game, but 9 of them were during the first 15 minutes. My team was about as terrible as the character I decided to play. They trickled in one by one to their deaths against a team who stayed together. Bebop is no longer able to play from the backline due to the nerfs to his hook, so I was forced to join in on the death train and die over and over while trickling in with the rest of my team. The end of this game shows the main thing I despise about Bebop and Deadlock. I hooked someone, none of my team followed up, and then I died because I had someone much stronger than me right in my face. I don't know how many times I'm going to say it in this video, but Bebop is trash. If you only take one thing away from this video, it's never play him. This game was an absolutely embarrassing loss. I played Game 3 pretty average. In the early game, I got stomped against 2 very sweaty gamers. Thankfully, Spoop and I were skilled enough to go into the mid-game only slightly behind on farm. Then in the mid-game, we started getting ahead in farm by taking unfair fights and stealing the enemy's camps. The more I play, the more I think my build needs to be tuned up slightly. I do think Bebop's best role is as a support, but I also think my past self who made this build overestimated some items and underestimated others. I need to redo my build to focus higher on his gun, as even with a support build, it is an incredibly effective tool. In the late game, our team was up 40k in farm. It was an absolute stomp, one in which I was not assisting my team in stomping. Like I said before, I played pretty average this game. I just did alright. It's a clear sign I need to lock in a little more and play a little smarter. Between games 3 and 4, I updated my build to remove a lot of the spirit damage items and include more gun items. A hybrid build seems to be far more effective on Bebop than a spirit build, as the orange items help him do damage and apply debuffs like slowing bullets and toxic bullets. The green items help him not die when he gets a hook, and the purple items help him hook more often with cooldown reduction and apply devastating debuffs when he actually lands that hook. My theory crafting session was complete with some very intellectual discussion.
They should make elementals too and have Claude be the main character.
The hell's
An
Claude?
active god or an active Claude?
Are you
Yeah,
talking
represent
about?
on this audience?
It's brain rot shit.
Are you talking about the guy from Peggle, the lobster?
No.
Peggle?
His name is not Claude.
No, his name's Claude. What are you talking about?
That's
Claude.
not. What the fuck is his
Isn't
name?
he
I'm looking
Claude?
at shit. He has like a fucking like French name.
No, it's Claude.
No, it isn't.
It is
Yes,
Claude.
it is. It's Claude.
It is Claude Lobster. Fuck me.
See? I know what I'm
Why,
talking
the
about.
pun wouldn't
I'm a-
But
work
you don't
if
know
it
the
was
name of the
Claude.
pumpkin, though.
It's fucking Renfield, you idiot.
All right.
I'm the Peggle
He knows his
god.
Well, okay, but what's the name of the sunflower?
The sunflower is Tula Tulip, you fucking idiot.
All right.
What's the name of the Shadow Sultan?
Shadow Sultan. That's also Bjorn. It's his.
Yeah, it's a stage name. Before he
I
goes
bet you
out to
don't know
strip.
I bet you don't know the name of the alien though.
The alien is fucking Splork.
Yes.
I know these things off the top of my head. You can't trick me. I know the Peggle lore. In Game 4, I struggled, both because I was adjusting to my new build and also just because Bebop is a character that's a struggle to play. I did alright in the early game due to playing incredibly safe, but playing safe against Wraith can be difficult and it led me to being a little behind. In the mid-game, I lost whatever little lead I had, going from a little bit behind to incredibly behind. My itemization was pretty poor, not just for this game, but for a lot of the games that I played in this video. I really over-prioritized Swift Striker and didn't prioritize slowing bullets and toxic bullets enough, leading to situations where I simply could not outdamage someone in a direct fight because my gun build was just poor. I also missed a few too many hooks, and a missed hook on Bebop means missing the entire point of the character. In the late game, my team kept running in and killing themselves over and over, which made it completely impossible to win. If we had just grouped up, played incredibly passive, and waited out Rejuve, maybe it wouldn't have turned out this way. This loss made me feel nothing. In Game 5, I did exceedingly well, even if I forgot to include core items in my build again. In the early game, I absolutely stomped the Pocket I was laning against. A rare win for Bebop when Pocket can completely counter my kit so easily. I maintained that decent farm into the mid-game by taking fights and stealing camps. My new build gave me slightly more damage, and allowed me to eke out some extra kills and farm when I shouldn't have really gotten them. In the late game, I played somewhat inefficiently. Since I'm building more gun items, I need to change my mindset and play around my gun more. My previous playstyle was to stay as far behind my team as possible and go for Hail Mary hooks. When you're building gun items with Bebop, you really have to pop your head out a little more often and try to laser some people down to apply some debuffs. Needless to say, we won. The enemies didn't play well, so I was able to win with my handicap of a character. I got absolutely lashed in Game 6. In the patch I was playing on for these games, Lash could do 60 to 75% of your HP with a single ground slam and a flog combo for a majority of the game, making him basically impossible to lane against. In addition to laning against the best character in the game as the worst character in the game, I also got ganked several times in the early game, because losing hard to one player just wasn't enough. Going into the mid-game, I was having absolutely no fun. My new build actually was working quite well. Slowing bullets set up for easy hooks, toxic bullets and slowing Hex kept people from fighting back effectively, and armor items made me able to withstand the damage I took after hooking someone right into my face. The problem I was dealing with was my own impatience. With every other character in Deadlock, you can just spam your abilities mindlessly to win. But for Bebop, you need to play incredibly patiently. It's just not something I'm very good at doing, which is pretty funny for a support main. In the late game, despite having very high farm, I was still useless to my team. We won, but I was mad due to having such little impact on this game. For me, Game 7 was a quintessential feels bad Bebop game. In the early game, I got pretty trashed because I made some poor plays. In retrospect, I should be backing to my tower shop to buy items even if it means giving up some lane pressure, as a character with 1,000 souls is less effective than a character with no souls and 2 items. Because I got stomped, the mid-game was dominated by the enemy Vindicta I was laning against, who kept saying Zoomer jargon at me that I cannot understand. I feel like I'm getting old. In the late game, I recovered in farm. However, Bebop's role, especially with the build I ended up playing to counter the 3 oppressive ults on the enemy team, felt very unimpactful to play. I stayed back, hooked people sometimes, and used actives to cancel annoying abilities. It's very strange because one of my favorite hero shooter characters ever, Ashlyn in Gigantic, also mostly sticks back, punishes people for bad aggression, and cancels annoying abilities just like I did in this match. Yet it feels 10 times more impactful when I'm doing it as Ashlyn. We won, but it just wasn't very engaging to play when my main role was hook someone, blow actives, die, repeat. A common theme I'm seeing in these games is my team winning, but me not contributing very much to the victory. I'm getting carried, and it doesn't feel very good. Game 8 was a quintessential feels good Bebop game. It was a stark contrast from my last one. I had a lot of fun, but mostly because my teammates were very funny. In the early game, I laned against Wraith, but I've learned some tactics to fight her. An early reactive barrier, withering whip, and spirit armor made her ult combo do absolutely nothing to me, giving me a huge advantage. Then I focused on orange items to win against her in a 1v1 basic attack war. In the mid-game, our team was actually doing quite poor due to bad teamwork. Nothing I couldn't solve by defusing saltiness with some self-deprecating humor. The Lash and I memed the entire game together about me being the big gay robot, and everyone else stopped being MOBA salty and actually communicated plays with each other in a game of Deadlock. I'm gonna be honest, I have literally never seen this happen before in any game of Deadlock I have ever played. We had a pretty crippling fight in the late game where we trickled in a lot and all died, but we regrouped and pushed together for a well-earned win. I guess what I learned from this game is that if you can have fun and defuse salty players before they gamer rage, your team may actually listen to you. However, this is a Bebop video and not a video about online etiquette, therefore discard what I just said and be toxic online instead. I don't care. Game 9 took place after I had taken a few days hiatus from Deadlock, as well as a major update dropping for the game, so I was pretty worried that I would be a little rusty. I got to lane the early game with a partner for once, which is exactly what you want to see as Bebop. His kit works much better in a duo lane than a single, as he can set up for easy kills for your teammate. While our lane was pretty good, the opponent's lane was just a little better. Combine that with one of the worst ganks I have ever done in my entire career, and we pretty soundly lost lane. In the mid-game, I realized that I was playing with one of the old legends of Gigantic, Thief. Wait a second, Thief? Holy shit! Thief! Gigantic! I never thought I'd see you. I didn't recognize you.
That's the first time this game has ever crashed for me.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that is crazy. This is like the most unstable game I've ever played, and I play Gigantic.
Lol.
Okay, played. Fuck Gearbox, fuck Randy Pitchford. I hate video games. He makes some of the best YouTube videos on the platform. His link is in the description. We took a few advantageous fights as a team, and got ridiculously ahead. We were up 30k going into the late game. I won this one, but it's really hard for me to credit it as me winning. I got carried, plain and simple. I've been carried for a lot of these. I made the most positional mistakes, the most bad calls, and the worst ability fumbles on our entire team. I always complain about how I never get carried, but for these games, I really have been. For my last game, I was ready to prove this build is a good one and really focus on landing my skill shots. I laned against a Warden, and we went pretty even the entire laning phase. I started getting the advantage against him, but the enemies ganked me to deny that. Going into the teamfighting stage of the game, I was pretty even. For a majority of the mid and late game, our team went very even. It was a pretty close match. It wasn't until some terrible late game fights and the Deadlock classic of trickling in one by one where we lost our lead, and then we lost the game. For this final match, I feel like I proved the viability of my hybrid build. I held my own and even got top far multiple times this game using it. Unfortunately, as it goes for Bebop, I kept dying over and over despite having improved armor, because I have to put myself in bad situations to get hooks. I really hate playing this hero sometimes. Before starting this project, I disliked Bebop and wanted to find a new main. After playing these games, my opinion really hasn't changed much. Bebop's problem is his kit. He has a very good gun, a powerful knockback that can be hard to land, an ability that does nothing outside of early game, a hook, and an ult that doesn't fit on the character. All he can really do is gun and hook people, and if you miss one of those, you're contributing nothing to the team. Even if you do land hooks, if you're behind, you're still worthless, because your hook just moves someone much stronger than you directly into the heart of your team. Bebop feels hard to play, and he really isn't that rewarding for playing him well. Speaking of playing him well, I think the thing I did best at Bebop was the theory aspect of playing him. I feel like my build is probably one of the best Bebop builds out there right now, and I feel like I can correctly identify the best time to use his abilities or where to position him. Actually executing on my knowledge, well, I'm not as good at that. While I did improve my hook accuracy and my positioning, it's the hardest part of playing Bebop, and it's the thing I need to continue improving on. Theoretically, if you can play Bebop to his maximum efficiency and never miss a hook, he's a very solid hero. The problem is, I can't do it, you can't do it, and even the best Deadlock players are not doing it. Improving hook accuracy is the main thing that Bebop players across the board, including myself, need to improve. My final thoughts on Bebop are pretty mixed. I don't really want to play him much anymore, because in a game as high-powered as Deadlock, playing a supportive character without that upfront strength is really draining. I refined my build and improved my hook accuracy, but in the end it wasn't enough for me to find enjoyment in the character. However, now that this is behind me, I can look forwards to the future. I am really excited because there are no more heroes ahead of me I really dread playing. Expect to see Dynamo next, or maybe Calico if she releases in the next few weeks. Thank you all for watching. Please make sure to press all those YouTube buttons. Do it. Or else Bebop's gonna find you. Actually, even if he does, it's not like he'll actually kill you. He'll just hook you, blow all of his abilities to do 25% of your HP, and then you can turn around and kill him. So maybe don't subscribe.
Shut up.